Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume. Hey, this is part 2 of our interview with Phillipa Soo.
You might want to go back and give part 1 a listen or not.
However you're doing it right.
Enjoy the show. The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
One of the things, and there were many obviously, that I found to be fascinating was how a show was written about a very imperfect man in regard to, like, this is a man who loved his wife but was also sleeping with her sister. Mm-hmm. And the show manages to be like, yeah, that was an element, but nonetheless, there's a bigger story to be told here. But I loved that that it didn't try to deny that. But I just wondered, in your research, in your learning about her life, what was that like? And was there more information there? Like, because that to me seems like another very difficult thing to live with or live through. And I don't know, I'm just making that up, in regards to how I would feel about it.
Yeah. Well, I think, the Reynolds pamphlet, The Adulterous Affair, that is, like, I think definitely proven to be true. I think the potential relationship with Angelica is sort of like in question, although there are many letters between them that are sort of implying that there might have been something more there, or if there's not something there, like there's a wanting or a longing or something. And I think Lynn addresses it very well.
Yeah.
Because he's just so gosh darn wonderful.
Yeah.
His writing is so great. And
He's
so
wicked smart.
The wicked smart. And so the work was done for us in that way because the writing was so good, because you've got, I think Satisfied is like the most wonderful sort of like reasoning. I mean, this is why Lynn is so genius, like, because you take an idea like that, like how would someone be okay with that? How do we, you put it into a song, like this woman who saw him from afar and realized that it would never work between them. And not only that, she saw that her sister was head over heels for him and decided to step aside.
Yeah.
Even though she had
and
this
kind
feeling.
of unpacking a split second over the course of the song. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. So the brilliance of Lin-Manuel.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the work that I was doing, and this is like stuff in rehearsal we talk about, like, so she's just going to burn these letters? She's just going to burn some letters. She's not going to like, but that said less about her and more about me, which is like, oh yeah, like people couldn't just leave their spouses. It was an arrangement.
My understanding is, in that time, if she would have left, the children are his, the property is his,
exactly.
You are left with nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
let alone whatever love and connection, even though
Right.
he's an imperfect person,
Right.
you know.
Yes. It became about understanding like her autonomy within the realm of the world that she was living in,
Mm-hmm.
which is not very friendly towards women.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a contemporary mind to sort of work yourself, and this is true when you do things that are, sometimes it's true of things that are set in different time periods, but it's true of things that are set now. When a character has a different sort of lived experience than you going to meet them and you going, like, making your way to understanding what the context was for that.
Yeah, exactly. I understood that Eliza understood that her job in this world and her children and her family and the legacy was much more important than having
An affair.
justice.
Her
That's
feelings.
right.
You know what I
and-
mean?
Yeah.
For having revenge or whatever.
I thought it
might
was
be.
so beautifully handled. I mean that because even though it was like such a light touch, it felt complete, and I understood as I was watching all of those decisions made, and when we take the turn, and she's like, we're beyond an affair. We
Right.
have a bigger pain, and now we have a bigger story.
Right.
You know, we have bigger things to feel and to do with our lives. I don't know, it fascinates me. I was left fascinated with all of the women's stories, of course, because you're just like, my God, every single man that we learned about in history, there's a fascinating woman that we have not
Or
learned
several.
about.
Yeah.
Or more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just, it left me with like, oh, there's so many stories to tell.
So many stories.
We're gonna step off of, if you're just like a
Yes.
hardcore Hamilton fanatic, you can go ahead and pause now. But I want to share something that I've learned from you, Pipsters, in observing you, is really about staying loose and having fun. So it's so interesting for me to hear that you're like this very studious, good student, and you could live in that gear. And the magic trick for you is to really make sure that you like cut loose and fly free in your performances and have fun. I think you're succeeding in my observation of you.
Since you asked.
We did this reading of a musical called Kiss Me, Kate. Kiss Me, Kate is a musicalization of Taming of the Shrew. And
It was so fun.
It was crazy fun. We did it at the Public Theater. Lee Silverman directed. There was a lot of, I was playing one of the gangsters. There was a lot of like non-traditional casting going on in
I
that.
don't think that's non-traditional.
For me to play one of the gangsters, I am a gangster.
You're an
She was
original
great.
gangster.
So during this reading that we did in front of a big old invited audience, you're out in front. Do you remember this? You're out in front. You're singing something. It's a moment where all eyes are sort of focused squarely on you. And you kind of lost the melody. We'd only spent a week rehearsing it. You kind of lost the melody. And you were just like in this very free, easy way. You were sort of in front of an audience. You were sort of like, what is it again? It was so light. It was so full of laughter. You were giving no fucks. And it's the kind of moment that I can say honestly, because of my sometimes performance anxiety historically, my adrenaline and cortisol issues, it might have burned a hole in my brain for days. But you were just so easy and so breezy about your imperfection in this moment. And you just kept on going it. Now, do you even remember it?
I don't.
I think it's because there was. I think it's because there was no adrenaline or cortisol. You were just like,
So
"What is
good.
it again?" And the musical director, I think that was Vadim, was like, "This is the melody," whatever it was, and you picked right back up and you kept going, and I was like, "That's how you do it. That's how you are free and easy." And does that give you a feeling when I describe that to you?
It gives me it gives me lots of feelings. No, I'm charmed because here's the thing about that. I don't remember that, and the way that it happened sounds about right. But me 10 years ago
Yes,
would remember that moment.
have perseverated on it. Yeah.
Yes, have had anxiety about it.
Yep.
Will never forget it. And also in the moment would have probably had a hot flash and gone beet red and then had diarrhea afterwards.
Adrenaline,
You know what I mean?
cortisol, all of it. Yep.
Yeah. not to say that stuff didn't happen. Like there was things probably going on inside of me. But what I've learned is my habits, my tendencies, like this was like something that just blew my mind open when I was in school, is that there were things that I had come across that were preventing me from, really expanding artistically, going further, becoming a better artist, becoming a better performer. And one of my teachers said to me, look, you're not, some of these things that we're bringing up, you're always going to have to deal with. They're not going to go away. You're not going to check off a box and like finish it and it'll be done.
Yeah.
These are the things that are going to happen for the rest of your life.
Such as
for me, a tendency to have anxiety and freak out about messing up and needing to be perfect. Right? So the opposite of that would be let it hang loose, right? Find that. So that has to be a choice for me every time.
Boy, you are making that choice.
And maybe it'll come naturally one day or sometimes, but I can't expect it to just come naturally because it's not a muffin recipe. I didn't like check off the box and like do my due diligence and then all of a sudden like I'm free and loose all the time. Like it has to be a conscious decision for me. And even further, I realized being out of school and out in the world, like how that manifests for me is when I have those moments of anxiety or those oops moments or those sort of like, this is going to like end my career and my life moments. The amount of time, if I can shorten the amount of time it takes for me to laugh about it later, then I've accomplished it. It could take a couple days. It could take like a month. But if I'm sort of working towards like shortening how long it takes for me to just laugh at myself about those moments, then great.
So what I was observing, and the reason why you don't remember it is because it wasn't traumatizing to you. I would put money on that.
Yeah.
But what I was observing is you have, in that moment, however you got there, whatever like grace you had granted yourself before we started that reading, you had really shortened it was a millisecond before you were like, I don't know what the melody is. Like you just like got right there really fast.
Totally.
And it was so, to use your word, it was super charming. And I actually carry it with me. I think about it more than I'd care to admit when I am like, okay, in a moment, in a millisecond, if I fuck up, if I trip over my words, if I don't know what the melody is, like if I can't access what the word is that I'm trying to use, how are you going to play it, Susan? Like, and I really carried that, watching you do that in my heart. And I was like, what would Pippa do? Pippa would be like, what is it again? And then just the audience would laugh and you would just go on. You just go on. I love that.
I'm so glad that you like that.
You're like, I'm glad I could be of service.
Listen, if it can do something for someone at some point, my sort of like oops moments.
You've done it.
This reminds me of a topic we're slightly obsessed with on this podcast. And that topic is failure and how we process our perceived failure. Do you have a particular thing that you felt you failed at? And could you talk us through how you processed it?
Yeah. There's the kind of failure that happens when you're working on something as an actor and you feel like, oof, that didn't like quite happen.
That didn't
like,
land.
That moment, or like, like, oh, I couldn't quite get there. Like the emotion wasn't there. That's just informative to me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's information.
Yeah.
Like I try and take it as not a measure of my worth and more just information about what's happening. Either, like if I'm doing a really emotional scene and for some reason it doesn't get there, I think, oh, I don't really actually know what my given circumstances are. Or I'm really sick today and I have a cold and like that's why I'm not really all here. Or like I'm really nervous about an audition that I have and so I'm really not, my head's not here or whatever. It's just information. Then there's the type of failure that is sort of like the outward, like what the world perceives as failure and how I feel like I've maybe let other people down, not letting myself down, but like letting the world down in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like being in a show that maybe closes much earlier than we think it's going to. I did this beautiful play called Amelie the Musical, and it was the most wonderful experience, and we had a really good time making it.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, or many reasons, it just didn't last. Like, we ran for about 5 weeks on Broadway.
Oh.
And it's just so silly because, like, yes, like, it's called, is it technically a failure? Like, I don't know, like, who came up with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a success? I mean, if you told me I was doing a 5-week run of Amelie on Broadway, I'd be like, yeah.
Yes.
Like, limited run, limited engagement. Like,
Yes.
it was a great 5 weeks.
Yes.
But that's my perception of it.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, with the sort of like critic outward world, what do people see me as, success or failure stuff is like completely unhealthy.
Yeah.
That, like, it's a success to be able to go to Broadway in the first place.
Yes.
Like, the odds of
To make it.
making it there
Yeah.
Yep.
are so small anyway. So, like, you have to take into account, like, all the things that you do to get to a place. And then you'll come to see that, like, the sort of failure, whatever it is so much smaller than anything it did to take you to get there.
How
That's
was it
right.
for you, like, when, I mean, we've made Broadway shows that have received, shall we say, earlier than expected closing notices.
Yeah.
How was it for you to receive that information, something that you had poured so much of your heart and soul into, and something that you were literally at the center of, that creative experience? You are the key art for that. All the show posters, you are the center of it. Your name is above the title. Like, how was it for you to receive that information? And in those days, how did you process it?
I didn't process it necessarily like in that moment that you were mentioning.
Well, you still are working. You still have a job to do.
Exactly. Well, but I think more that, like, you know, that sort of what I was talking about, that moment it takes for you to laugh at yourself.
Yes. Yes.
That took me a while to find.
Sure.
A little bit longer.
Yeah,
on
that one took a little bit longer. But I did learn about letting yourself have those feelings. Like, I was mourning it too. Like, I wasn't just like disappointed in myself for being a failure. That was like the smallest part of it. Like, I think the biggest part was that I just wasn't going to be able to continue doing this thing that I planned on doing for a long time and put a lot of energy into, and these people that I made it with, I like wasn't going to hang out with anymore. So, like, there was a lot at play there. So I actually, like, did not handle it well. I just was like very depressed, and I felt like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I made a mistake. Like, something went wrong. It was clearly all my fault. What am I going to do next?
What shifted it for you? Because you're not there now.
Mm-hmm.
To be perfectly honest, and I hate saying this because I don't want this to be me,
But here we go.
but I got another job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt better about myself.
And
Yes.
life went on.
And life went on. But I was pissed at myself because I was like, look at me. Like, I just got another job. Someone handed me like a thing, and all of a sudden I feel better about my life. Like, what a sap I am, because I just spent 4 months being like, Steve, I'm never going to work again. Oh my God. And then, like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I get to do this other thing.
We work in such a crazy business because it is a lot about external opportunities. For many of us, it's about external opportunities and when they arrive, and like being available and waiting for them to show up and blah, blah, blah. But here we are. So that was your truth for that moment of your life.
That was the truth. That was the truth then. And it will never be this. It won't be like that ever again, because eventually I found that moment of like, haha, like, I'm laughing at myself because I was like an insane person. I was like, oh my God, this is it for me. Like, nothing ever is going to happen ever again.
Did you feel like, in a way, it was sort of cheating, like, to feel better just because you got a job?
No, yeah. I think that's what I'm like. What I was
like, you were
I was so-
shortcutting it.
Yeah,
or
I was so
something.
pissed at myself for it. I was like, I'm better than I can be. I know my self-worth. Why did it take somebody like giving me permission?
Yeah.
To like be okay with having, a couple months of free time.
But to use your words earlier, that's information.
Totally.
That's information in this ongoing investigation that we're all doing about ourselves and creativity. That's information. And so if you do have a feeling that you want it to be different next time, there are ways you can influence that.
Yeah.
Well, to use your words again,
We're just throwing all your words back in your
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Hard-hitting.
Tell me everything I said.
This is hard-hitting journalism.
You said it won't happen again. Because you did learn from that experience,
Yes.
and you're determined that next time it's not going to come from external forces. You feeling better can come.
Yeah, I
internally.
think like before it happens, I can be conscious of it. Even if for some reason I go down that road again, like I think so many of us do in this industry, where we're like, here we go again. Like I'm unemployed and I like can't just enjoy having it, like, 2 months off.
A little downtime.
Right.
When, from the previous 2 months, like I literally had no time. So like, I don't know. I just feel like just getting better as taking as it comes, as opposed to feeling like I have to prescribe a way to be.
But like you said, like next time it happens won't be the first time that it happens.
No, I won't. Even if it happens in the exact same way, my perception of it will be different.
Yeah.
I
like that.
Even if I'm like bummed out and blue for 4 months because I don't know what's happening next, and then somebody gives me a job and all of a sudden I'm happy, that experience will ultimately be different because I have this perspective in my mind of like, it's not the end of the world. I'm blue about it. I want to be working.
I grieve it.
But also free time.
The other variable that I know, this is the drum that Auntie Susan and Laura always bang, but the other variable that I just want to add into this mix is I think this also can be shifted by making your own work.
Yes.
That is another thing that can shift this, is if you are somebody who knows yourself to be a creative artist, in addition to being an interpretive artist, there's something about knowing that, yes, in addition to seeing what external opportunities come my way, there's a short story that I'd be interested in having made into a play that I can direct. That sort of thing also can really go a long way in shifting. It doesn't take away the pain and the grieving and the loss of having invested so much of yourself in a project that you love and having it feel like it got cut short, but it does something. It's like a little more sense of personal agency.
I guess it goes with that, like what I was saying, space, ritual, and experiences, that sometimes space is just given to you without you asking for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to create it for yourself.
I just meant a little space, not all this space.
Right.
Space.
And same thing with the other two aspects, like your experiences and the sort of rituals that you have. Like some of them find you more than you find it. And so you work with what you're given in that way, you know? So if you're given a lot of space, fill it. If you're given no space, fill it.
I appreciate your honesty about that. I feel like it's so easy. When you were speaking earlier about Eliza Hamilton's life, and you were saying, life is challenging. Life is full of challenges. I know you were talking about Eliza Hamilton and other historical figures, but I think it would be very easy for people to look at any of our lives, Pippa's life, Laura's life, Susan's life, from the outside and say, oh boy, Pippa's really gotten it all figured out. And look and Hamilton's coming to movie theaters and how wonderful. And she's married to Steve Pasquale. And he is a fucking dreamboat. But
he is.
Even there are challenges like this. There are heartbreaks. There are losses. These things befall all of our lives.
Yes.
And it's helpful. I'll just speak for myself. It's helpful to hear you talk about that, those challenges happen for you too, and that you're working on finding a way to shorten the lag time between the hit or the perceived failure and the laughter.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the hit and the humor. Right? So how quickly can you go from there to there?
No, you're right about that. That's exactly my goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Here's a little story time for you. This is more about me than Pippa, but I want to hear Pippa's side of this because she was there.
Wait, what?
But trigger warning, if you're triggered by my self-involvement, there's your trigger warning. So
that warning should have been up top.
So Pippa and I did a pilot together a few years back.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It was called Dangerous Liaisons, and it was directed by Taylor Hackford, written by the great Richard LaGravenese. I felt very fortunate to have that job. And we were doing our first table read out at Silver Cup Studios in Queens. And I had been to Silver Cup Studios about, 10 million times in my life as an actor in New York. And so I left with plenty of time to get to the first table read. I had time to spare. But I exited the subway at a different location than I typically had previously. And I became deeply, deeply lost on my way to Silver Cup Studios in Queens. And then I was late and lost and having a light asthma attack. And I was totally running. It was like the actor's nightmare. I was running through unfamiliar streets in Queens and asking every person that I came across, can you tell me where Silver Cup Studio is? Do you know how to get to Silver Cup Studios? And person after person, including people like traffic cops, were like, no, I don't know.
Traffic cops, they had no idea.
Nobody knew how to get there. It was too truly, if you know what the actor's nightmare is, it was like I was running. Literally running, not knowing if I was headed in the right direction. The AD was calling me on the phone saying, where are you? We're all waiting for you. It was a fucking nightmare. And by the time they were like, what do you see around you? What landmarks are around you? What streets are near you? Because they were trying to guide me in. It was a bad day. And as I got closer, finally honing in on Silver Cup Studios, as I got closer to the building and the entrance, a team of PAs and assistant directors were flanking me like Secret Service, trotting me in. This is how late I was. And I knew as I got closer, we were in that big room on the ground floor of Silver Cup. I knew what I was about to face. And it is what I faced. The door opened and there was a giant rectangular table around which all the actors and all the creatives sat. And then on the perimeter of the room, there were more people involved in the production. I'm going to put it at like 50 to 75 people in that room.
It was a big room
full of people. And I knew that they were all seated. Everybody was like coats off, ready to go, waiting for me.
Ready anytime.
It was
anytime.
As a person who does believe if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, go fuck yourself. You were a mess. But I held this thing in my mind as the Secret Service was trotting me towards the door, which was, God damn, this is hard to talk about, which was, who do you want to be in this moment? Who do you want to be? Susan, pull yourself together. Mm-hmm. This is where meditation helps. Who do you want to be in this moment? So that when the door opened and all the eyes landed on me, I would have my shit even somewhere in the airspace of having my shit together.
From my perspective, I was like, first of all, I was just like, oh my God, this is so fun. A table read. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'd never done a TV pilot before. I'm like, God, wow.
Baby's first pilot. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, we haven't started yet. Great. I'll just get some chips. And then you come through the doors and flanked by a posse of people.
So I look important. So this is going good for me so far.
I'm pretty sure you were wearing your glasses that day.
Eyeglasses.
Yes,
yep.
eyeglasses.
That makes sense. That checks out.
And you were carrying this juice.
Oh my God, I had a if I couldn't look like more of a douchebag.
No.
I had a giant smoothie.
You came in, the doors opened and you came in and you had your juice and you just went I am so sorry for being so late. And I was like, this badass bitch, she's late and she's totally with it. And yeah, we're waiting for her because obviously we'd wait for her because she's really important. I was like,
and she needed a smoothie.
I was honestly, I was just like, oh, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how you do it.
I was like, great. Yeah, sure. She's late or whatever. But you came in, you were like, I'm so sorry. And then we just got right to work. And I was like, gosh, she's so fantastic.
I was trying to formulate that. Who do you want to be in this moment? And I remember the door again. The only thing that could have made me look like more of a douche is if I had a smoothie in one hand and a tiny dog in the other hand. Like that would have been the only.
But because you didn't have a tiny dog in your hand,
that sent a different message.
No, literally, I'm saying to you, Susan, that like you walked in and I was like, oh, like this is an important person. She's like so important to the fact that like we don't care that she's late. We're just like waiting for her. And like she was very apologetic, but very graceful about it. And like just like went straight to work.
Fuck. It was one of the worst professional days of my life. Total actor's nightmare. God. And I remember, I do remember having the presence of mind. Who do you want to be in this moment? To say something, I'm going to paraphrase, but something along the lines of, I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yes.
I'm not typically this person, but today it seems I am this person. Let's get to work. I think that's what I said to 100 people who were staring at me. I just wanted to have had this moment to clean that up with you. Thanks. You've been great, Pippa Soo. that was one of those. It took a while to laugh at that.
Yes.
I think today might have, like, how many years ago was that? I finally arrived at it today.
Yeah.
Today's the day.
Oh my God.
Pippa, is there something creative that you know you need to do before you pack it up and say, I'm good?
Before I decide to retire to
That's right.
Side of the
to a farm.
Yeah. Ecotopia.
Ecotopia, I was going to say. We're all moving into a biodome.
Yeah.
We're going to grow our own.
Off the grid.
Yep.
I feel like actually to like give you like a non-answer answer.
Okay.
I try, and I know that this doesn't always happen for an artist because you have to make a living and you want to make art too. But I try to do things with my life in a way that if someone was like, you can't do this again tomorrow, I would feel good about what I've done so far.
Like complete.
Wow. That's a great outlook.
So for such like a perfectionist Post-it note kind of girl, I have learned that like setting goals for myself like that, like I got to do this before I quit, actually like gives me so much anxiety.
Oh,
because I'm also a Gemini and I have trouble finishing things. Like I tend to like do like a lot of like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. And I have like 5 balls up in the air.
Follow through.
And I have trouble following through, even though I have like great ideas and I love doing lots of things and I like lots of things at the same time.
Yep. We can help you with that.
Yeah.
So look, the struggle is real. But that being said, I think like in my life practice, I try and create my art and do things so I feel like if it were ending tomorrow that I would feel really good about it.
Wow.
Fucking A.
That's pretty
good answer.
Incredible.
You've been in this creativity business for a minute. Give us some good creative advice.
Someone once told me, oftentimes when you've learned something, it feels like you've lost something.
What?
And vice versa.
Tell us more.
So maybe speaking to like the idea of failure too, that like when you feel like you've lost your way or you've done something incorrectly or you've, I don't know, shown up late.
Throwing that back in my face.
I don't know. I'm just saying, but that those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I've just like lost some part of me because of this. It's also a moment for learning and reflection and and information.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard it put that way before.
So oftentimes when you've learned something, it feels like you've lost something.
Oh.
And also, I think that says something to like vulnerability as a performer, that, when you're on stage and you feel the most uncomfortable is probably closer to a moment of genius than not.
I'll flip it a little bit and be like, if you feel like you have lost something, the moment of me standing there like a douche with that smoothie, having an asthma attack in front of a room full of 100 people, the closing early of a show that you love, when you have that feeling of like, oh no, I believe those are the moments when the greatest learning potential is in the air. If you navigate it thoughtfully.
Yes. Which is a hard thing to do.
It's true.
It is, but I do think there are strategies I have to employ strategies so that I don't have amnesia about it when you're in the pain of it. So that I can be like, wait, no, you know what to do. First step, come straight into the present moment. Step 2, breathe in the present moment.
Yes.
Step 3, to start asking yourself, why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And what can I start learning from this? But I love that. Say it one more time.
Well, I think you're right. I think it's actually interchangeable, but
maybe
it was told to me the other way around. But oftentimes when you've learned something, it feels like you've lost something.
See, that to me makes me think of like, when you've become enlightened about something, there are certain things now, like in my life, now that I know this, I can no longer be doing these things or being this person in this way now that I have a new sense of awareness.
Yes.
Right.
So yes, in that sense, like I've learned this skill set or I've learned something about myself and now I have to let go of that other part of me.
Yeah.
That would sort of take over.
That. Yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting.
You're deep as fuck, Phillipa Soo.
Let's get deep, you guys.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Deep on the next five.
Because we're going to go deep right now.
Go
Cams, hit it.
Pippa, what's it all for?
I think it's all for empathy. I think the arts give you a way to experience empathy in a way that can be destructive or productive. It can shake you. Art can shake you. It can make you uncomfortable. It can also make you feel at home. It can make you feel a part of a community. But it gives you a scope of feelings and experiences and feelings about your experiences that you would not have had otherwise because of the situations of your life, where you are able to put yourself into somebody else's shoes and further deepen the fact that we are all humans and we're all living creatures and that life is precious. And the more that we can help people find empathy and expand their empathy, I think the better that we will all be. So for me as an artist, that means literally like I played Eliza Schuyler Hamilton. Like I put myself in her shoes. But I think from an audience perspective, go see a play about a family living in an area where you are not politically aligned with the people that are from there, and you might be a little afraid. Go see something that like might scare you a little bit, because I also think that when we lose the ability to practice finding empathy, we also lose the ability to navigate our way through uncomfortable situations.
I love
concur.
that. I love that.
That's great.
Finally, who or what is sparking you these days?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I'm working on this play called Too Macho, written by Ethan Lipton, and it's a wonderful sort of crazy town in the middle of somewhere during the day of the gunfighters. And this town is like kind of a metaphor for society as a whole, but it's a bunch of grown-ups just acting like not grown-ups.
And it's sparking you.
And it's sparking me because I feel like I haven't gotten to do a play in a while, and getting to do comedy is really fun for me.
And directed by Lee Silverman, love of my life.
Lee Silverman.
Love of my life.
Who just alone, like Lee Silverman just is sparking my spark files.
Yeah.
Because I love, and this goes to like me like wanting to direct. Like I just love watching her pick through like all of the wonderful choices that actors bring and sort of carving out the thing that we want to see. And she does it with such
She's so
humility
fun
and
humor.
fun
Yes.
and grace and humor.
We love you, Lee.
God, we love her so much. But that's like my most sparky thing right now.
We
That's
love
great.
it.
And the opportunity for our listeners and all of us to get in on that spark is exciting as well.
Yeah.
Totally.
We'll come see you in your spark.
Yeah.
Come see the
We'll see your
spark.
spark.
It's very sparky.
Oh,
No.
Oh,
It's
no.
our
That's
least
it.
favorite time. It's
Oh,
the that's
no.
it time.
Oh, thank you so much to our
Pipsters. You
Pipster
are
Sue.
the BEST. There, I said it.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, we hope that this put another bunch of sparks in your file. Listen, if there's a spark you'd like us to explore, or if you've taken a spark and you've fanned it into a creative flame and you'd like to share that, won't you email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com? We will celebrate you, or you can submit it through our website, thesparkfile.com.
We'll even take your feedback, but you know the price of admission. First, you have to share a creative risk that you have taken recently.
Yes, you do. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe, rate, 5-star review it. If you like this podcast, you know it would be a big help. Share it with people you love. You know, when people post on social media and they're like, I need a new podcast at the Spark File. If you didn't like it, Pippa, what do you say to your critics?
I would say oftentimes when it feels like you've lost something, you've learned something, and maybe you've learned that you want to listen to something else. But I'll tell you what, you're losing out.
Whoa.
Now you've really lost something.
Whoa. Take it from Pippa Soo.
If something tickles your fancy and gets your creative juices flowing, we are writing you a forever permission slip to make that thing that's been knocking at your door. It's your turn to take a spark and fan it into a flame.
You got to learn it. You got to set fire to a letter and turn it. You got to do like Pippa Hamilton Sue did and sing songs while you fucking burn it.
You got to take it
And make it. Bye.
Bye.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I wanna make or how I wanna be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the chief creative officer and chief marketing officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.